My name is Gaëlle Le Goff. I'm the co-founder of 50inTech. The company is live for roughly a year and a half, but the platform is live for roughly 6 months from now. I know that some of you are not yet registered to 50inTech because you had the possibility to register to this event without subscribing. So I'm going to tell you a little more about 50inTech's project and why with Caroline Ramad, who's my co-founder, we decided to build this company. So we started by this situation that we all know. It's not a big secret. The number of women is really, really low in tech. We're talking about one woman for 4 or 5 men. So women are radically underrepresented in the tech sector everywhere in the world. And it's not really a pipeline problem because there is a lot of jobs in the tech industry and there are a lot of women that have a technical degree. The only thing is, for some reason, they don't really pop in the tech jobs. And then there's another data that is really amazing, that after an average of 8 years of experience, these women are most likely, like 1 out of 2, most likely to leave tech for good. So we feel it's not a nice situation. Tech is building our future, and so tech cannot be built without 50% of the humanity. We are 52% of women on the planet, so it cannot be it. So we started to find out what was the solution and how we could help the digital world become more equal, gender-wise, but not only. And one of the conclusion that we had is that one of the things that is missing for underrepresented communities, women or other underrepresented communities, is a lack of space and the lack of network. So we decided to create this space where people can nurture connection and interaction all together. The idea is, of course, diversify the tech industry. That's why we're called 50inTech. We hope that within the next 30 years, we'll manage to help the tech industry become 50% male, 50% female, and 50% of all kind of our underrepresented currently community. So for those who are not yet registered, we invite you to come on the platform, build your profile and see all the nice members that we already have. It's a very quality as we hear, community. Maia is one of our great members. So Maia, I'm happy to welcome you today.
Thank you.
To discuss this question of how to pivot in a product management, especially when we are a woman, and why this job is actually made for us. And there's no reason why we should be so few diving into it.
Yeah. Perfect. Do you want me to take over?
Sure. Just maybe I will give some rules. I've already said that please keep your microphone mute for now. We'll open it once you have questions to ask. Use the chat area. I will manage the question and invite you to open your microphone when you have a question. And to give you just a little organization or structure of this event, Maia will do a presentation. She has a deck to explain you everything her studies found out, and then we'll jump on the questions if that's fine with everyone.
Perfect, thank you. So let me try and share my screen. I can share my screen. Actually, allow me to.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I'm on it, sorry.
No worries. Well, I'll start by introducing myself.
Yeah.
So I started actually product at BlaBlaCar 6 years ago. I was the product manager in charge of monetization there. And after working at BlaBlaCar, I joined Aircall, where I built and managed the product team. So I was the VP of products, and I hired about 15 people. And so my team was 50-50, women and men. The funny thing is that at Aircall, there were only 2 teams that had a 50-50 ratio, and they were the 2 teams that were managed by women. So myself and the VP of customer success. So my time at Aircall, actually, the hardest thing I had to do was to hire product managers. I found that in France, there is no training, no education, or little education actually about product. So I started to teach actually 2 years ago, to teach product at HEC, HEC, at Sciences Po, Polytechnique. And after that, I thought, okay, I want to focus on that full time. And I left Aircall to launch Noé, which is a program to train the next generation of product managers. And so the reason I'm here today is that, well, we received quite a lot of applications, a bit more than 100, but we had only 20% of women. And most of them had actually super relevant profiles for being a PM, but many had big doubts about their capacity to become a PM. So that's why I reached out actually to Gaëlle to organize a webinar about women in tech and women in products. So I'm just gonna do a quick overview for like 10 minutes about the dimensions of the PM role. Second, how technical should a PM be? That's a question that I get asked a lot. What are the qualities that are necessary to be a PM? And then the different types of PM depending on the company. So I guess I can try and share my screen now, right?
Yes, you should. Let me know,
Okay.
please.
Perfect. Let me do that. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Perfect. So I was telling you, what are the dimensions of the role of a PM? Super fast. There are 4 main dimensions, right? The first one is strategy. As a PM, you'll get to build and craft the strategy for your product. And so this means understanding business drivers, building a vision, objectives, and then a roadmap based on that. The second big dimension of your role, if you're a PM, is the problem. Once you've got a list of problems in your roadmap, you want to dig into it to understand it. And what you're going to do here is have a look at data and talk to your user research, basically. Then once you've got a clear view on your product, on your problem, and you prioritized it, you'll work on the solution. That's where you start to work with the designer, work with tech to understand feasibility of your ideas, of your features. You prioritize, you spec, development, and you launch. And the fourth dimension is actually what I call impact. It's more of a soft skill. As a PM, you'll have to drive projects from start to finish. You'll have to work with many different people. And so you'll have basically to manage stakeholders, manage expectations, initiative, and be a leader, basically. And so these are really the 4 themes of the Noé program. I'll tell you just a bit more at the end, but we'll really work on those 4 dimensions. So I told you, obviously, when you're a product manager, you work with developers to develop functionalities in the solution phase, solution dimension. And one of the questions that I get asked actually the most for people who want to become a PM is, I'm not technical, I'm not an engineer, I don't know how to code, is that okay? Can I still be a PM? So here, actually, well, the level of knowledge obviously depends on the company that you want to apply for. If you want to apply for a company like Screen that has a cybersecurity product, they will require you to be technical, to be a developer. But that's more, that's not a generality, it's just a single use case for Screen. Actually, in France, the trend or the best practice is that a product manager should not know how to code, but they should know how to understand big concepts such as front-end, back-end, API, the architecture of a product, languages, mobile, iOS and Android, GitHub, stuff like that. The idea is that you as a product manager are able to have a conversation to frame a solution with a developer without being completely lost. So I told you in France, because it's different actually in the US and specifically in San Francisco and Silicon Valley. Actually, Google and Facebook only hire product managers with a computer science background, and this has impacted the product culture a lot in Silicon Valley. So there, it's super important to be somewhat technical, to be a PM. So technical, not important to know how to code, but important to understand those big concepts. And that's also a big part that we will cover in the Noé program. You have other qualities, obviously, that are important when you're a PM, and some of them are non-negotiable, super important. So I'll cover them. The first one is one of the most important, is actually to be user-centric. When you're a product manager, you are not your user, but you're supposed to be able to put yourself in their shoes. So one of the ways that I used to assess this as a hirer when I was recruiting is to ask, for example, what do you think about our product? And so here I was really expecting the candidate to be able to tell me that, well, from the point of view of a user of Aircall, this is good, this is not good, blah, blah, blah. And the user at Aircall is pretty specific. Aircall is a phone software for support teams. So you have to really put your head in the shoes of a support team agent. The second one is actually, for me, number one. This is the number one thing that I tested, and I tested it actually from the first question. This is what I call engineering mind. So having an engineering mind does not mean being an engineer, but it means that as a PM, you will receive dozens of inputs from a lot of people in the company and outside of the company. So from your users, your salespeople, customer success team, your data, your benchmark, and you've got all of these data points, and you need to dig into them, understand them, categorize them, and then draw conclusions and express those conclusions in a clear way. And that's actually super hard to do. So the idea here is to be actually super structured in order to go through that process. And so, well, this is super easy to assess when you're hiring. You can see it from the first question. What's your background? Or why do you want to be a product manager? If the person goes on and on and on and talks for 15 minutes, or if they're super clear in their mind. Number one, because of this. Number two, because of this. Number three, because of this. So engineering mind. The third one is actually a team player. As a PM, you'll work with a lot of people in the company. So it's important that you're not a lone wolf and you can collaborate. Then design and or product sense, product feeling. The idea here is to be able to have a critical eye on a product and on its design, more specifically, to be able to spot inconsistencies in UX, in UI, and how that would affect a user. And then the two last qualities. The first one, I was telling you, being a PM is a lot about soft skills. So being able to hold initiatives and being a leader in those initiatives. And lastly, being humble. You'll have a lot of hypotheses that actually you will be wrong about, and you need to realize that as a PM and move on. So qualities that are important, and to me, these are at the core of any product manager, and any product manager should have those. However, PM is a still pretty new job, and there is not one way to go and become a PM. And it actually really depends on the company that you're going to apply for. And so, well, I say that there are 50 shades of product managers, depending on many criteria. And it's important for you to have a look at those when you want to apply to make sure that you're a fit for this company. So there are three things actually you can look at. The first one is the stage of the company. What is the stage of the company you want to apply for? So I joined Aircall 4 years ago, and actually it was only 15 people. I was the first product person supposed to build the product team, to build the product vision, all of the processes. And so what Aircall valued at that point was someone who had a strong business background, because I was supposed to build well, the strategy basically. However, when I joined BlaBlaCar, so that was 6 years ago, BlaBlaCar was already a pretty big company. They had a product team of 15 people already, many processes, very structured company. And so they were looking for PMs who were very structured and very organized. So first criteria, what stage? Second criteria, what type of product? I was telling you Screen, for example, has a cybersecurity product. You need to be technical to work on that. On the other hand, a product like Stonely, very, very cool product, actually one of the sponsors of the first promotion at Noé, is actually an interactive step-by-step guide for users. And so here in this product, design is super important. It's at the core of the value proposition. And so Alexis, the founder, is really looking for product managers who have a strong design sense. So second, what type of product? And then the last criteria is what is the culture of the company that you want to apply for? If you apply for Alan, for example, Alan has a very strong no meeting culture. They do everything by a written way, and nobody ever meets to discuss topics. Everything is doing on GitHub in a written way. And so this means they actually hire PMs who are very autonomous, very structured, and who can support this way of working together that's kind of particular. On the other hand, you have a company like Livy, which is an e-consultation product, kind of like Dr. Lib does. So it's a Swedish company, very cool company. One of my co-founders actually was a PM at Livy. And so because it's a Nordics company, it's very impacted by the Nordics culture. So it's very collaborative, strong importance of meetings, of consensus. And so they are looking for product managers who are very into collaboration and strong team players. So there's not one way to be the right PM for a company, and you should look those three dimensions: what stage, product, and culture. So before we go into questions, I just wanted to tell you a few words about Noé and what we do, what's our program. So Noé is a 3-month program to launch your product manager career. So first, 4 weeks of intensive trainings, dimensions of the product management role. During these 4 weeks, actually, you will work on real problems from the best product managers and head of product in Paris. So Alan, I was telling you about them. Get Around, which was Drivey before, each Stonely and Algolia. And after those 4 weeks, once you have landed your first product manager job, you will have mentoring, coaching individually for 2 months. So our first promotion starts on June 15th. It's actually full, but the second promotion starts the second week of September. We have 6 spots left. So if you're interested, feel free to visit our website, noe.pm, noe.pm, or just shoot me an email. And now we have time for questions.
Thank you, Maia. We have a first question from Lisa Semling, having a very interesting question for you. Lisa, if you want to open your microphone, and we're listening to your question.
Yes, sure. Hi, everybody. So I am Lisa, and I'm currently working as a PM, but for a physical product, like for bathroom furniture. And my question is, how big is the gap between being a PM for a physical product and a tech product, especially because having some friends working in tech, I feel they are using a lot of Agile and Scrum methods that we are not familiar with in consumer goods or physical products. So I wonder if you think the gap is big.
Well, that's a good question. And I think you've got the answer in your question, actually, when you mentioned the agile way of working. So being a product manager for a physical goods, by definition, you have a very long development cycles.
Yes.
And so what's really at the essence of being a product manager on a tech product is that you'll have short cycles. And that's why you have a very different way of working. with your developers on a day-to-day basis to implement changes as often as you can. And then I think in terms of tools, it's also very different. You look at data in a very different way. I guess in terms of user research, you have a lot of similarities. But then for the ways of working, the ways of looking into data, and the ways of building a solution, it's really different. So I would say you've got some basics, but it would be important to work on those big differences to apply for a product manager role in tech.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So I'm asking the people to ask their question, but for now they're a bit shy, I think. I can see from the chat area that we have a lot of people already specialized in product management or already product managers. So I'm very curious about how did people feel about the presentation that you made about the role product manager, and if they feel the need to have an additional training to feel more legitimate or something. Is anyone want to answer this question?
I have a question. I see a question from Caroline.
Oh yeah.
What were the main difficulties hiring PMs in France? Thank you, Caroline. Well, I think the number one difficulty is that no one gets trained to be a PM at school. You don't have a product management school. So it is actually starting to be created. So that's why I created Noé. There are other new actors in this space, but it's super new. And the definition of PM is that it's actually right in the middle between business and engineering. And so you've got to find people with a business background that have a strong tech sense, or from an engineering background who have a strong business sense, even though it's not mandatory to be business or tech, but it's the most common, I would say. And what I've seen is that because also it's a new role that not a lot of people understand, there are a lot of people who apply and don't understand what it means to be a product manager. And so, well, if I received, for example, 30 applications of non-experienced product managers, I could see that maybe 25 of them did not understand really what the role entailed. And so this is kind of discouraging when you're hiring people and you realize that actually they don't know what they're applying for. And I think this is why many companies decided they want to hire product managers with experience. Just because out of 30 candidates, you'll have of 30 without experience, you'll have 25 who actually don't know what it is and are not really sure that's what they want to do. And this is also why I created Noé, is because I strongly believe that there are many people who want to become product managers who don't have that experience, who would be great at the job, but there is that gap of knowledge of the tools, the best practices, the culture of product management. That's important to get through that first screening, because very, very often without it, you just won't go through the screening of your curriculum, of your CV. So that was the main difficulty, actually.
Thank you for answering. I just will add from my personal point of view is that, so I come from business and I did my master's in management of information systems, and I was doing an internship at Flixbus as a product owner. But the difficulty when I got back to France and was looking for a job was that most of the people were hiring product owners didn't actually know what they were hiring as well. So it's like, I also felt that from companies, it was like, we need POs, we need PMs. But it's like, when I was really asking product questions, they were like, yeah, I mean, you should know, like, that's what you will figure it out. So I also felt it from this side as well. I mean, I don't work in France now, but but it was really like my experience as well. It was both sides, like no one understands what a product owner does. But as well in companies, it's like you often end up doing everything that people don't necessarily want to do either, because it's like, it falls into product. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There's also education to do on the company's part. I think it's getting better and better, really, from what I can see, especially in the startups. But that's also the idea behind Noé, is to kind of structure, and educate around the role of a PM. What's a PM? What's a PO? What's a head of product? What's a lead PM? What does the PM do What does the designer do? Etc.
Yep.
Etc. Etc.
Well, thank you so much.
I'm going to try to gather the question that we have by theme. So we have many questions quite linked to what you answered already. So from Hazel, who is asking, sorry, Hazel, I'm not going to open everyone's mics because they're quite linked. How can you stand out to the HR people when you have a different career background and are pivoting? We've got also a question about what are your advice to build an impact resume when applying for a PM position if you have little experience? And also a question of legitimacy for people coming from non-tech background. What should I do and show to recruiters in order to appear legitimate? So all these questions I think are quite linked.
Yeah.
And very close to what you're offering at Noé, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a super hard question because, as I told you, I think one of the problems today in the industry is that many startups are now focused on experienced PMs because they had too many bad experiences with PMs without experience. So, well, how to get through the first screening, I don't have any magic advice except for join us at Noé. The idea is really to give you that legitimacy and to put you in contact with the startups that are hiring and that actually contact us because they want to have a sneak peek into the pool of future product managers that we are training. So that's one thing. Obviously, I'm not here to advertise about Noé. So what else can I think about? Well, obviously, anything that you did before that might be related to product management in some way, just be 100% focused on that and really be able to explain what it is. So project management, anything related to design, anything related to a digital product, anything related to entrepreneurship, all of those are really linked to product. So do you have something like that in your background? And if so, package it well. Just visit the profiles of senior product managers at cool companies like, I don't know, Algolia, Spotify, Facebook, whatever, and have a look at how they package their experience and see where you actually can relate. So I would say that's number one tip. Second tip is, but that's something actually big to do, but if you have time and you want to do it, what about trying to build your own little product actually? So you can showcase it to the recruiters. So that's an advice that I give you. And at the same time, I'm a bit so-so about it because being a PM is not about building new products. It's about arriving in a company and being faced with the complexity of an existing product. So this is what actually recruiters will be looking for. This is what we do in Noé, is that you will work on the Get Around product, on the Alan product. But still, having your own product that you built is better than nothing. And it's also a cool way to show that you're interested. So I guess those would be my tips.
And now I think Cici Bazitova, I hope I pronounce your name correctly, has a question. If you want to open your microphone, and then we can follow up immediately with Claire Marbach, who's having, I think their question is following each other. Cici, do you want to ask your question? Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. It's a really nice talk and presentation. It is great that we can also participate. I wanted to ask, how did you go, Maia, how did you go about building your product team actually? And how did you establish the product culture in the company that you joined and there wasn't already a formed team? So if you can share some tips around that, would be really grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, I will ask Claire to immediately follow our question, and I think you can make one answer for both.
Sure.
Claire.
Hello.
Hi.
Nice to meet you, everyone, and very happy to be discussing with all of these PMs around here. So I'm currently growing my team of product managers, and I'd be interested in any tips that you could share from your experience of building a team, like an inclusive team.
Yeah.
I think we're doing, it's hard to sell internally mostly. It's not a focus within my company. And as you mentioned that only 2 teams within ECHO were 50-50 between women and men, I guess you have some experience to share. And also how to make sure you get inclusive beyond the gender question as well.
Wow, 2 great questions. Do we have 2 hours ahead of us? No. I'll try to make it short. Okay, so how to build the product team. So it was really something that I did step by step, right? I didn't hire 15 people in a month. This was the work of 2 years of work, basically. So actually, I would recommend you a super cool article by Peter Thiel on that, the different stages of a product team. I can't remember the name, but I'm sure you'll find it.
Yeah, or we will share it with everyone. You know, all the links that we have, and if you do have links as well, people in the talk, please share it in the chat. We'll keep tracks on it. Okay, yeah, so this article is really cool. But so basically, step 1, finding my first product manager. So that was actually an emotional challenge, just because I was super excited to find the right person. So this took me a while. Actually, then I hired a product marketing manager, just because I thought it was super important to have product marketing in the team as soon as possible. And that person actually then transitioned to product management. So yeah, step by step, I think, so the first person that I hired was someone with some experience, actually. The second person that I hired was someone without experience, and I spent really a lot of time with her the first 3 to 6 months to get her on board. And it was an amazing investment, because after that, she became the lead product manager in the team. And actually now she's lead product manager at Spotify. So yeah, building the first people in the team. And then I guess so I was managing product management and product design. So I also hired product designers. And when I had 8 direct reports, that's where I thought I should start to actually structure the team a bit better, because 8 direct reports was too much and really, really hard to do, along with everything else. And so that's where we started to hire actually a head of design, a lead product manager, and another lead product manager. And so all of those people were reporting to me and were themselves managing 2 or 3 people, product designer or product manager. In terms of, well, where to find candidates and where to find diverse candidates, well, that's a very complicated topic. There is no magic recipe. You just have to work on it a lot. So basically, several things. The first thing is that you have got to build your pipe proactively, especially for product management. I told you, for Noé, we had 80% of men applying. Why? I don't know. Maybe because it's tech, it's a masculine domain, but naturally you would get more men that apply. So you've got to go and get those women to apply. So how do you do that? Well, you participate in events, you do talks, you do webinars, you just, well, basically get out there and try and get in those women communities. And you have a ton of them, women who code, women in data, women in AI, there's a ton of them. So getting those women in the pipe is the first step. The second step is, that's something super, I mean, I guess you already all know that, but reviewing all of your job descriptions to make sure that you are not too strict on your requirements. That's something that we have data about, is that a woman applies when they have 80% of the requirements in a job post. And I think a man applies when they have 50% or 40%, I can't remember. But basically, conclusion is, you will miss great women candidates if you are super strict in what you ask for. So like 3 years of experience in product management, typically do not write that. No one has 3 years of product management. I mean, very few people have 3 years of product management experience, and they are hunted by everyone else in France. So just don't put it in your resume, in your job desk. Obviously, the first thing is to make sure you're not biased in your interviews. So you have trainings for that. And of course, if your team is already diverse, you will have less bias. This is kind of a snowball effect in a good way.
And then just to talk about diversity in general in the company, something we did at Aircall that was really cool is that actually one day 2 women of my team came to me and told me that they thought we could improve our culture around diversity, and there were some things that were making them uncomfortable. So I suggested we build a diversity team within the company. So we started to do that. It was mostly women, but we also had men. We had one of the co-founders of Aircall actually, who was part of the team. And so it grew like from 3 to 5 to 10 to 15 people. And the idea was to meet every 2 weeks for lunch and discuss how we could improve diversity in the company. And after maybe 2 months, we had prepared a presentation with the problem, why it was important to solve the problem, how we thought we should fix it. And we presented that to the executive committee of the company. So I was a part of the executive committee. The co-founder was also a part of the executive committee, so it helped to get traction. But basically, we all presented that, everyone, not just the 2 of us, to the executive committee. And that worked out super well. What we did is that we identified sponsors within the executive committee for each initiative that we wanted to do in the company. So the initiatives, it was things like, in terms of hiring, review all the job desks. I was telling you about it. In terms of events, organizing events around minorities in tech. In terms of company culture, implementing in the quarterly reviews something around diversity at work, and just the behavior part of it, basically. So yeah, that's a very long answer, sorry everyone, but presenting that to the executive committee, getting their okay, and then working on that worked out super well. And we actually increased the percentage of women in the company by 15%. So really cool. I mean, it's not a huge change, but it's still something that's nice in a year. Yeah, did I answer your question? I guess there's also one last part of your question, CC, around product culture. I did a talk about that actually at La Product Conf, but it's in French, so maybe you can't understand it. I don't know if you speak French. Okay. Well, basically there are many things here, endless topic. In a nutshell, if I was to, 3 key initiatives. First one is to over-communicate. Over-communicate is super important when you're a product team. Put your designs in the kitchen with Post-it so that people can comment. Display what you're working on in the toilets so that people know what they're working on, what you're working on. Talk about it at the weekly sales meeting, at the weekly customer success meetings, etc., etc. Really to get that awareness of what we're working on and make all the business teams understand that if they have feedback, they can come to you because their feedback is super important. So that's, I think, the number one thing. The second thing is, well, in my opinion, to have someone from the business team join the product teams from time to time. So what we did, we did it like half a day per week. We had someone from the business team within the product squad. So that was super cool. And then if I had to pick one last topic, well, in the idea of being customer-centric and user-centric, one cool thing that we did is that we implemented executive sponsors. And so this meant that actually each person in the executive committee, so the VP of marketing, VP sales, VP customer success, myself, blah, 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 we had a list of, I don't know, 4 or 5 customers that were actually, we were sponsors of those customers. And we had to do one call with them per quarter. So that's not a lot. But for a VP of marketing that never talks to customers, it's already a big difference. But yeah, I can talk for hours about how to create a product culture.
And time is running.
I'll stop here.
Okay, thank you, Maia. I'm going to ask another 2 persons to ask questions because I think they're related. So calling Audrey without her last name and Iman Bensetik. Probably Iman start first and then Audrey.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
So my question was about the role of a product manager within a big company. I work for Orange as a product manager, and doing the gap to go to a startup, I feel like in Orange I'm too how to say, I'm too I forgot the word. Sorry. I don't have much experience compared to other colleagues, and in the startup, I'm already too old to start at a product manager job. So, what would be your advice to apply to a product manager job in a startup? Should I target product manager, a senior product manager, a lead product manager? I'm a little bit lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first, who says you're too old to be a product manager? There are many product managers actually who are super senior. If you look at a company like Alan, their product managers they have like 10, 15 years of experience in product. They're extremely senior, and they're not the head of product, they're just the product managers, but they're super autonomous, and they have just a lot of space to build their roadmap, their vision, and their product. So this is the first thing, is that it depends on the company, and I'm sure you can still be a PM in a senior environment, basically. And then the second idea that I have is there are some companies that are hiring lead product managers. So these roles are kind of in between a product manager and the head of product. Basically, most of the time you won't have direct management, but you will have basically guidance and ownership on the roadmap of several squads, and you will have to basically mentor more junior PMs, but not be their direct managers. And so this is, in my opinion, a great step. Maybe start here and then become really the manager of more junior product managers. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, thank you. It helps to better target what kind of jobs I can apply to. Yeah. And it's reassuring also to hear that. Thank you.
Audrey, your question was quite linked to that. Do you want to add some more info to Maia so that she answer your question?
She says, sorry, I can't talk around noisy environments.
Oh, sorry. So I'm going to ask, so the question was related because Audrey was wondering what was the main differences between a job of PM in a corporate big company versus a startup one.
Yeah. Yeah, well, obviously many companies. I would say that in general rule is the bigger the company, the more specialized the roles. So obviously, if you're the first PM of a company, you will do project management, feature building, problem understanding, vision, road mapping, hiring, well, a lot of stuff. If you're the second PM or the third PM in a product company, so that's probably post Series A, Series B, in this environment, you will start to implement the processes, and that's a super important and interesting cycle, in my opinion, to join as a PM. There's already something built, but actually it's very, very early stage and you want to improve that and scale it. And then the third step would be joining a product team that's already 10 or 15 people. So that's probably post Series C, Series B, Series C. And so in this environment, obviously, as a PM, you will need to be an expert on your business objective and your product line. I think that's also a super interesting way to do it, because you will go super deeper in those topics. I think if you're the first PM in a company, you will just be not on the surface, but obviously not as deep on many topics. So it really depends on what you like. And then maybe the fourth situation in really a big corporate, usually in those companies, sometimes you have the difference between a PM and a PO. So they don't call it all the time PM and PO, but basically there's someone who's in charge of the delivery part, working with the developers to implement the features, and then someone who's in charge of the part before that, basically strategizing the roadmap and then understanding the problem.
It's quite linked to Christina Bailey question as well. Christina, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm actually a developer, so I'm a bit more technical, but I like kind of understanding all the moving pieces going on in a company. And one of my questions is, I understand the difference in scope. For example, a project manager, there's many projects within, for example, a product. But I just kind of want to understand if someone's interested in getting more on the project management side or product management side, like what do you look for? Is it more of a vision when you're in product versus project is more execution, or how would you lay that out?
So, well, product management, in my opinion, has a component of project management. Obviously, you will need, as you said, to be focused on the execution part if you're a project manager, mostly on the execution part. What this means for me is to be very organized, very structured, just because it's super hard to coordinate a project among many stakeholders. And then on the, be a great communicator, obviously. And then on the more product parts, well, it's more related to the qualities that I was saying in my presentation, but yes, your job will be to strategize your product. So you will be able, you have to be able to take a step back and understand, okay, what are my business metrics? What are my product objectives based on that? And based on that product objectives, how do I build a roadmap? So it's really mastering all those stages. You've got your product vision, usually that's done by the CEO and the exec committee. Then you've got your big business metrics coming from that with your basically strategy. And then you've got your roadmap, and then you've got your projects. And then you've got basically implementing those projects. So it's kind of those steps. And if you're a project manager, you'll come at the second to last step. If you're a PM, you will start most likely at the roadmap phase. So that's the second or third after the vision.
Got it.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It helps clarify. Thank you.
Cool.
Marine Lusso has been asking two questions. Marine, I think it's your turn now. If you hear us.
I think, Marine, you're muted.
Let me open.
Otherwise, we have a question from Violette.
Yeah,
Violette is here.
Marine is now able to speak. Oh, okay. So otherwise, I will ask. Oh, here she is. Marine?
Yes.
Hi.
Yes. Hi, everyone. This is the first time for me doing this.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Here's the video. No, actually, it's a simple question. Everything is in my question, and it's not limited to product management. And since we're all talking together and we're all women, I thought maybe we could share some tips. I actually had an answer from one of you guys, Claire Marbach, about it. And I just wanted to know Maia's opinion about it and how did she deal with it in her career?
Yeah, well, the answer is yes. Obviously, I've had it and I still have it. Right now, I'm building a program to become a PM and I'm freaking out. Will I be able to really help those people become product managers? And before that, I was the VP of product at Aircall and I was freaking out. Am I really able to hire all those people to build the strategy? I think it's been here all my life. And still I have managed, to reach those objectives and do it. So how did I cope with it? Well, obviously talk with other people. At Aircall, I had a rule to myself, which is having at least per month lunch with one other CPO or VP of product. And this really helped on my imposter syndrome, just because I could see we were all in the same boat and everybody had the same challenges and it wasn't just me who was stupid. So basically, that's the first thing. The second thing is actually mentoring. I had two great coaches / mentors during my 3 years at Aircall. And actually I do also coaching and mentoring myself today. That was just really, really helpful for me in terms not necessarily of the content itself, even though it was helpful, but just being able to express my doubts, my challenges where I was struggling and get feedback from someone else. And then I think the third element that was helpful for me is to find my allies within the structure. So when you're part of the executive committee of a company, it's not easy to find those, but it's super important. And so, well, basically just spend time with your coworkers, with people that are on the same level as you. Spend time outside of work to understand them also, and see how you can both work together. And so for me, Tanya, who was the VP of Customer Success at Airco, who was the other only woman in the executive committee, well, we were actually super close and really helped each other on all of those topics.
And there's another solution. I'm going to advertise a little bit for 50inTech, but that's that's exactly what we want to achieve, like helping people meet each other, mentor each other, give them advice. And I mean, if Violette, you think that having a lunch with another CPO once a month or something is an idea that you would like to take from Maia, it's really, you know, going to 50inTech and trying to find the person who is a skill that you're looking for to ask for lunch or a call is exactly what we want to build. That's end of the advertising. Marine, your turn now, because I see your microphone is, oh, no, yes?
Yeah, she's, no, we can't hear you actually, it's super weird. Well, I can read out loud your question, that's fine.
Yeah, so she had two questions. One, is asking, is it worth to send unsolicited application to find a PM job? And a bit earlier, she's been asking, coming from a non-tech background, what should I do and show to recruiter? So there's, I think Marine is really looking to find a job in product management and doesn't know where to start really.
So sending unsolicited applications, to be honest, I don't think that's worth it. I think now it's so easy for a company to advertise about the fact they're hiring, that if they're not doing it, it's probably they're not hiring. And hiring a PM is not like hiring a sales rep. You want to do that when you're pretty clear on what that person is going to do. You want to do that when you're clear on your product vision. And so it's not something that's, in my opinion, but maybe I'm wrong, will just pop up in someone's head like, oh yeah, this great person applied, why not hiring a product manager? However, that being said, I think there is maybe one case where you could do it, and I could recommend doing it, is for super early stage companies. So the first time where a company starts to hire a PM is actually when they reach like 15, 20 people, they have several developers. And so before that, it's usually the CEO that's doing the product management role, right? And so at some point, they're like, fuck, well, it's actually, I'm super busy. I'm doing so many things. How can I manage? And this is actually when their investors tell them, well, you know what, there's an answer and it's called a product manager. So actually, if you manage to find the companies that are in that stage and try and convince them, so you should not tell them, I think you need a PM, but you should just basically apply, tell them what is the role, because actually most of the time, very small companies, they're not super aware of what a PM does, if it's the first time they do that, obviously. And then I guess maybe the third thing I could tell you about that is that maybe you can enter those companies through a door that's half PM, half something else. And sometimes that's something companies will consider if they have a need in account management, and you can do also half of product and then become a full-time product manager when the company grows. And then the second question was, can I apply if I'm not technical? Well, yes, you can apply and you should apply. Just don't target companies that have super technical products. Try maybe to target companies that have like consumer facing products or SaaS B2B softwares that are not like linked to cloud storing or I don't know, cybersecurity.
We have 5 minutes left, and we'd always try to stick on the schedule. So a question from Clara, who's a student. Clara, if you want to ask your question. And I would like just, if we can, Maia, take time to answer Greta Mezzina last question as well, because it's very interesting, and then we'll have to stop the questions. Okay. Clara, your turn.
Hi, I realize I'm one of the only non-professional people here and a student, so it's okay if you make the answer very quick. but so I'm a student at the University of Cambridge, and I study philosophy. And yeah, I'm really interested in the role, especially after doing an internship last year where I got close to the product manager of the company, and I thought it was the first time I heard of the role. And yeah, just for a person like me who's just starting doing some internships in different roles, I'm really, really interested in the tech industry in general. I'm learning how to code right now, and in general, really interested. But what other things, apart from learning to code, maybe should I be doing to get the skills and the experience that I need to maybe one day become a PM?
Well, apply to Noé. That's one thing. No, but one other thing you can do, I think, is really try and step up on your product culture. I don't think I would tell you about skills because it's kind of hard to learn product skills on your own. But try and, I don't know, have a look every week at a product, a tech, an app that you like, and try to understand why you like it, what you would improve in their onboarding, in their UX. Maybe have a look next week on a SaaS product, have a look next week on an analytics product. And I think actually having that culture is something that really makes a big difference when you're interviewing, being able to make the recruiter understand you know about the industry, you know about the players, you know about the categories, and you have somewhat analyzed them. Basically.
So that I can show some awareness of like, I know, yeah. Okay.
Again, yeah, this is related to what I was saying before, is that most people who have a junior profile, you can understand from the first sentence they say that they're not aware about the product culture and about the product role. So if you do that, it's already a great first step.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
And Greta Mezzina?
Yes, hello.
Hi.
So, yes. So me, I'm trying to switch from a customer success digital project manager to a product owner, product manager position. And I've been trying to send a lot of application. Well, actually, I sent a lot of application. And right now, I'm trying to enlarge my technical competencies. So I may also be willing to look for a stage. But even in that case, most of the answers were something like, you don't have the right experience, you don't have enough experience, we prefer the candidate with more experience, even for a stage. So I was wondering, you suggest to create a product portfolio in order to boost our application, but in which direction should we go? Like, should we create a new product, or should we do a case study on an already existing product?
So the heart and the core of being a product manager is solving problems. So this is what you should start with, is a problem. You should not try and think, okay, what is a product that I would really like to build? What is an existing product I would like to improve? You should think, what problems do I have in my life? Or what problems do I see people having around me? And it can be anything. It can be something related to your bank, related to, I don't know, how you manage your house, your insurance, anything. But really, and being able to express that to actually your recruiter is already a great point. Is the reason why I worked on this is because I want to solve this problem, and this is the problem. So then you want to dig and understand your problem. So you want to talk to users, you want to research online if you can see data around market, the market size, the trends, etc. And then you want to work on your solution once you understand that. And so you ask, what are the right tools for developing a new product? In my opinion, as I said, a PM does not need to be technical, so you don't need to know how to code. So I would not suggest coding a product yourself. I would suggest building an animated prototype that behaves like an app, but that is not an app. And so for that, you've got a lot of no-code platforms on the web. You can look, or design tools. You can look at Figma, for example. They're great. You can look at Marvel App, and you have even simpler tools that don't require to have knowledge of UI. But yeah, there's a ton of them. And the idea here, in my opinion, would be to build that prototype and not a real tech code product. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we already reached an hour. That was super quick. That was Very, very interesting. Thank you, Maia. I hope everyone that we answered your question. I'm happy if you leave us a little message in the chat area telling us what you thought about this chat. It's always relevant for us to know what people think about what we're doing. Again, if you have any question, you can shout out to Maia either by writing an email to her. She shared her email, but we'll be sharing all the information by email later, which is maia@noe.pm, if I'm right. Yeah,
Maia with an I.
You can reach her on 50inTech as well, because she's got a profile there. You just have to go in the search area for contact and look for her, and you can make a connection request and she will answer additional questions. And yeah, I hope to see you very soon. We are going to organize more sessions in the coming weeks. One about well-being next week, and another one, but which is more a kind of community bootcamp or community think tank for people who want to, join female forces for building new companies, new projects, etc. So I hope to see you. Thanks again for joining us, and I see you very soon.
Thank you everyone for being here. It was a pleasure. Bye-bye. See you next time.
Bye.